Hello dear students, wish you a very good day. Today we are going to do a poem Elementary School Classroom in Islam by Sir Stephen Spender, an English poet, novelist and essayist. The theme of this poem is social injustice and class inequalities. If this video helps you a bit, please press the like button, and if you are new on this channel, consider it to subscribe. Also press the notification bell on. I hope you will enjoy this poem, the objective of which is to make you more socially aware and a responsible citizen of our great nation. Stephen Spender lived across most of the 20th century. He was born in 1909 and died in 1995. 20th century was an era of great scientific and technological advancement and innovation. It brought about great social changes in which some of the changes were good and some were not so good. So it was left to the poet like Stephen Spender to bring out the injustices and social anomalies existed in the society. Being a literary artist, he made his poems and other literary works a tool to highlight injustices meted out in certain sections of society. His compilation, The Poem, published in 1933, expresses his social anger. The poem highlights the plight of children in government-run schools, depicting the kind of education doled out to them. This education hardly does them any good. On the contrary, it reminds them of the deprivation and sorry states of affair which they are already in. Though the government is doing its lot for these underprivileged children, still the quality they maintain is highly questionable. Sir Stephen Spender not only shows his anger at the government-run machinery, but also has complained against the apathetic attitude the privileged class of society who are in a state to do something for these poor people. Stephen Spender shows his anger at the insensitivity of these upper class of people towards the need of these underprivileged class. This poem was written in the 20th century. Still, it is highly relevant in the present India of 21st century. We find the same condition described by Sir Stephen Spender prevalent in the state-run schools all around us. This poem is an eye-opener too, and arises some hope in our hearts to do something so that all the wrongs should be righted. Stephen Spender is not a critique of education. He recognizes that the role of education is to transform one's life. If it fails to do it, it means there is something wrong in the system itself, which must be considered at once. Before going through stanza by stanza analysis of the poem, we must read this poem. Far, far from the gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of a squirrel's game in a tree room other than this. On sour cream walls, donation, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities, belt, flowery Tyrolese valley, open-handed map avoiding the word its word. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, were all their future painted with a fog. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes and stars of words. Surely Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes from fog to endless night. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel, with mended glass like bottle bits on stones. All of their time and space are foggy slums, so blot their maps with slums as big as tomb. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs break open till they break the town and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands and let their tongues run naked into books. The white and green leaves open history theirs whose language is the sun. Stanza 1. The poem opens with a striking note of contrast. Far, far from the gusty waves, these children's faces. The faces of these children are not what they should be alike. They are not gusty, they are not enthusiastic, they are not full of zeal and vitality like gusty waves on which the wind rides. The implication is, as a strong wind is capable of changing the course of waves, in the same way these children should also be capable enough to bring about change in the society, but they are not because they are dull. Line 2. Like rootless weeds, the image creates double impact. Those who have something to do with gardening, they know that weeds are unwanted plants. They are useless, resilient, and very hard to get rid of. In the same way, these children are also unwanted in the society. The society in general wants to get rid of them, but it can't. In the same time, they are rootless also means their antecedent is not known. Nobody knows from which family they have come. Their unwantedness in the society is well reflected through their unkempt hair, straggled around their pallor. Pallor means here pale and unhealthy face, means there is no one in the society who could take care of them. In line 3, there is a tall girl in the class. Being tall here signifies that she is older than other students of the class. She is overage. Her head is weighed down with the burden of shame and responsibility so much that she cannot hold her head high or keep her shoulders upright. There is one more boy in the class who is described as paper-seeming boy. It denotes the fact that he is undernourished, even malnourished. He is with rat's eyes. In rat's eyes, there is the use of metaphor, means his eyes are in search of food like those of rats. There is one more boy in the class whose growth is stunted, means prevented, whose growth is prevented. Instead of inheriting money, property, or business of his father, this unlucky boy has inherited disease of twisted bones of his father. Instead of reciting poems about sun, moons, stars, beautiful flowers, birds, and animals ironically through his body, he is reciting disease of naughty, rough, and twisted bones of his father from his desk. Here, there is one implication that his disease could have been addressed if he had access to the medical facilities, which he actually did not. Indeed, these are those types of children whom we never see bounding round the school compound. At the back of the dim class, there is one more boy who is unnoticed, sweet, and young. There is no impact of inhibiting atmosphere of the classroom in him. Instead, his eyes are living in dream. He is dreaming of squirrels' games outside in tree room. Here, the poet wants to suggest, if you want your imagination do not die, if you want your dream should come alive, you must escape from this inhibiting atmosphere of the classroom. If you cannot do it physically, at least you can do it in your imagination. In the second stanza, from line 9 to 16, the poet gives a vivid picture of the classroom. What is there in the classroom is just opposite to the realities of their own life. In their life, there is no intellectual stimulation, no marvel of architecture, no beauty of nature as that of a gushing river or valley filled with flower. The wall of the classroom is sour cream. It means it must have seen some better day. Now it has become like cream turned sour. On the walls of the classroom, there are some pictures hung which might have been donated by someone rich and affluent. Among those pictures, there is a picture of Shakespeare's head. Shakespeare is the symbol of high academic standard, which is far removed from the reality of these slum children's life. Second picture is that of a civilized dome riding all cities, which is set against the background of cloudless at dawn. Dome is the symbol of marvelous architectural structures. This is set against a cloudless at dawn, means the new era of civilization is coming soon. The third one is the picture of Tirolese Valley filled with flowers. All these pictures don't mean anything to them. They all are far away from the realities of their life. Further, describing the classroom, he describes an open-handed map avoiding the world itward. This map serves only to increase their frustration. This is in sharp contrast with the four walls of the classroom. These four walls denote the limitations and restrictions and they turn the classroom into prison. Their life, they cannot move around the world depicted in the map. They can see only outside of the window of the classroom. Whatever they see outside of the window of the classroom, that only is their world. Once again, an open-handed map avoiding the world, its word means seeing the map, those slum children are only convinced that there are two worlds. One of those who have so much surplus which they can give, and another is of those who are so much deprived than that they can only receive, means one for privileged class of people and another for underprivileged one, or you can say unprivileged one. These children's world is what they can see outside the window. There also, their future is painted with fog. Fog here signifies that they don't have any clear conception about their future. Their future is bleak, full of darkness. Those narrow streets that are looking outside the window are the symbol of limitations and lack of opportunities in their life. Those narrow streets, together with lead sky, only represent a complicated image. Their world is far away from the natural beauty of rivers, capes, and stars. In stanza 3, the poet becomes very aggressive when he says, "Surely Shakespeare is wicked. The map a bad example with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal." Why does he say so? Because both these pictures serve to represent what are pinnacles in their own respective fields. Shakespeare is ultimate in the field of learning, knowledge, and his comprehension of human nature, and Map is absolute in the field of adventure. Ship and sun represent widening and broadening of horizon, of unlimited opportunities open to them who find themselves in the sea. Thus, serving before them what is desirable to achieve, they do not impart them with the appropriate tools to accomplish them. This leads them to temptation, and while having no access to them, they are prone to steal. Thus, the role of education itself is defied. Instead of uplifting their life, it is compelling them to do something what is undesirable in the society. They make them a thief. Now, the poet describes how these children are deprived of the bare essentials of their life, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes from fog to endless night. This line suggests that they don't even have proper place to live in. They live in a very congested place where they toss and turn the whole night. Actually, they are not able to enjoy sound sleep at night. Their day starts with fog and ends with night, means they do not have any clear vision of their life. There is no objective of their life. They live in complete darkness. On their slag heap, these children wear skins paved through by bones. In this line, their body has been compared with the heap of industrial waste. Here, slag heap means the heap of industrial waste, with bones peeping through their thin skin. Their bones are peeping through their skins in such a way as if industrial waste is tied in a sheet of cloth. So frail is their body, and spectacles of steel with mended glass like bottle bits on stones throws light on how they are not able to afford the bare essentials of their life. There are some children who need to wear spectacles on their eyes. The spectacles they are wearing has been broken several times and not properly mended by a professional. One who wears spectacles knows it very well that if spectacles worn by someone are not properly repaired, our vision becomes impaired. These glasses are looking like bottle bits, means they are bits, they are the pieces of glass taken from the broken bottle of a drink, and they are fitted on the steel rimmed spectacle. A steel rimmed here denotes to the hardened look of life. On stones refers to their faces. Their faces have been compared with stones. They are impervious to change. They are so much hardened by the circumstances of their life that their perception cannot be changed. All the time they have to spend their time in the foggy slum. In a resentful tone, the poet here says that on the picture of their map, there should be the picture of a big slum which they would better understand. Though Spender is extremely critical to the government and apathetic attitude of the privileged class of people towards the need of underprivileged one, this last stanza is brimming with hope and optimism. He hopes somebody influential, either he is from the government or teachers, would come from somewhere, someday, and spring into action to solve the problems of these slum children. Otherwise, these windows of their class will remain shut for always, and their life will become like catacombs, like graves. Whosoever the person is, he or she would use the power of influence to break open the window of their class so that they should come out freely to break open the town Here, break open is highly dramatic and highly radical. With the help of the influential person, they would have access everywhere in the city, town, green fields. They will run freely under the blue sky on gold sands, means they will also relish the natural surrounding like other normal children. Let their tongues run naked into books. The white and green leaves open means they would also have access to the books they need and devour all the knowledge in them hungrily, so that knowledge and freedom be theirs in reality. They will be able to write history about themselves, how they were able to come out of the darkness. Sun in the last line signifies knowledge. Here, the poet wants to suggest that only knowledgeable persons are able to write history. These unprivileged class of people, with the help of someone, will gain knowledge and will write history about themselves. As a conclusion, we can say Spender believes in the power of education. The most important role of education is to transform the lives of its recipient. It can only do so when system adapts education to the varying needs of the different stratas of society. There are people who will not fit in the regular mode of education, so change and flexibility both is required to suit the needs of its recipient. If it happens, there will be a breaking, as it has been mentioned in the line 28, the breaking of the restrictions, the breaking of obstacles, the breaking of everything that holds these children back, breaking off from the old and breaking forth into the new, so that they might explore in liberty all that had been held back from them. This is breaking forth from the graves or catacombs and sailing forth into the new vistas of horizon, where they can explore something on their own terms until they are able to write history about themselves. It is then they will be transformed from the power of education. It is then they will be transported from virtual death to life. Now the poem is completed. Thank you very much.